Jeff clutched the oversized coupon booklet like a holy relic, the words, 50% off everything, emblazoned on the cover as though forged by the gods of bargain hunting. His glittery sunglasses perched dramatically on his nose, and a fanny pack was strapped around his waist like a belt of honor. He adjusted it with a determined flourish. "Arthur, behold," he declared, pointing to the towering entrance of the Mall of America. "The Colosseum of Consumerism. Today, we make history." Arthur followed a few steps behind, already regretting agreeing to this escapade. "Jeff, it's a mall, not a battlefield. Can you try to act normal for once?" Jeff ignored him, his attention snagging immediately on a mannequin in a winter coat near the entrance. He approached with purpose, bowing theatrically. "Ah, a greeter. Kind sir, direct me to the land of savings and glory." The mannequin naturally said nothing. Jeff nodded appreciatively. "Silent but wise. I admire your restraint. Lead on, noble guardian of commerce." Arthur grabbed Jeff by the arm. "It's a mannequin. Let's keep moving before you start a scene." Inside, Jeff froze in awe, his eyes darting from neon signs to the blinking lights of an indoor amusement park in the distance. The smell of pretzels wafted through the air, sending him into a reverie. "Arthur, do you feel it? The pulse of consumer joy? The scent of destiny?" Arthur sighed. "I feel like you're going to get us kicked out before we even hit the food court." That's when Jeff spotted a mall security officer zipping by on a Segway. His jaw dropped. "Arthur, look, a noble steed." Jeff, no. Too late. Jeff bolted toward the Segway, intercepting the startled officer. "Fear not, gallant beast," Jeff exclaimed, leaping onto the handlebars. "I shall guide you to victory." The Segway wobbled violently, the officer shouting for Jeff to dismount, but Jeff clung on, steering the vehicle in chaotic circles while laughing maniacally. Shoppers jumped out of the way as Arthur sprinted after him, muttering apologies to anyone who would listen. "Jeff, get off that thing before you—" Jeff dismounted with a dramatic flourish, patting the Segway as it beeped in protest. "You've served me well, trusty steed. But now I must tread these hallowed halls on foot." Arthur caught up, breathing heavily. "Why are you like this?" "For adventure, Arthur. Always for adventure." Their path led to the food court, where Jeff made a beeline for a pretzel stand. He slapped his coupon booklet onto the counter like a victorious knight presenting his spoils. "One salted pretzel, and do not skimp on the cheese dip." The cashier blinked at the booklet. This expired 2 years ago." Jeff gasped, clutching his chest like he'd been mortally wounded. "Expired? Impossible! This is a coupon of legend." Arthur grabbed Jeff's shoulder, steering him away before things escalated. "We'll find something else. Stop traumatizing teenagers." "But Arthur, I was born for cheese dip," Jeff lamented as he was dragged toward the next section of the mall. The chaos only grew when Jeff stumbled upon the mall directory. A giant map stood in the center of the concourse, its cheerful, "You are here" dot glowing brightly. "Arthur, look," Jeff whispered, pressing his face against the plexiglass. "A map of enchantment." "It's just a directory," Arthur said, rubbing his temples. Jeff ignored him, tracing the routes with one clawed finger. "The spinning wheel of delights, the cave of fizz, the fountain of desires. This map holds secrets beyond mortal comprehension." Arthur sighed. "Can we just go somewhere without making it a quest?" Jeff hopped onto the pedestal, pointing dramatically at random locations. A small crowd began to gather, some pulling out their phones to film. "Citizens of the mall," Jeff bellowed. "Today we conquer. We feast upon pretzels, ride the steel serpent, and claim the treasures of youth." Arthur yanked him down before security could return. "Jeff, stop yelling at maps. They respect my vision," Jeff said smugly. Their next stop was the amusement park. Jeff froze at the sight of the towering roller coaster, his eyes wide with wonder. "Arthur," he whispered. "Do you see it? The roller coaster?" "The steel serpent," Jeff bellowed. "We must ride it." He tried to bypass the line entirely, but the operator redirected him with a flat, "Sir, you have to wait like everyone else." Unfazed, Jeff turned his attention to the carousel. He climbed onto a painted horse, striking a regal pose. "Arthur, behold, I am the carousel conqueror." The ride started, and Jeff waved dramatically to passing shoppers, shouting, "Fear not, mortals! I rule with fairness and cheese dip." Arthur, standing off to the side, shook his head. "Why do I even bother?" By the time they returned to the food court, Jeff had somehow amassed a following of confused shoppers. It started innocently enough, Jeff tapping his foot to the upbeat mall music playing over the speakers. Then he started clapping. A few kids joined in. Before long, Jeff had sparked an impromptu flash mob. Arthur leaned against a pillar, trying to blend into the background as a security guard approached. "It's a performance art piece?" The guard frowned but backed away as Jeff ended the flash mob with a kazoo flourish, an item he had somehow acquired mid-chaos. Bowing deeply, Jeff declared, "And thus concludes the first act of the Mall of America saga." As they left the food court, Jeff spotted a stress ball stand. He grabbed a handful, tossing them into the air like juggling pins. "Arthur, behold, the treasures of modern society. Put those down before we get arrested." "Arrested for artistry?" Jeff scoffed, shoving one into his fanny pack. "For shame, Arthur. Onward." He darted toward the escalators, kazoo in hand, playing an off-key melody. Arthur followed with a resigned sigh. This is going to be a long day. Jeff twirled his kazoo in one hand like a baton, marching through the atrium with the confidence of a man on a mission. "Arthur, we've only scratched the surface of this paradise. There's something missing, something vital, something glittery." Arthur trudged behind, sipping a coffee he'd picked up during one of Jeff's detours. "What could you possibly need now? You've already commandeered a Segway, traumatized half the food court, and led a flash mob." Jeff stopped abruptly, his glittery sunglasses sliding down his nose. He jabbed a clawed finger toward a window display. "That," he declared, pointing at a shimmering rainbow-colored kazoo perched on a velvet stand in a novelty shop. Arthur squinted. "A kazoo? You already have one." Jeff turned, aghast. "This is not just a kazoo. It's the kazoo of destiny, Arthur, and it shall be mine." The shop was a kaleidoscope of bizarre trinkets and noisy toys. A wall of harmonicas, slide whistles, and whoopee cushions stood opposite a rack of tiny gadgets designed to break within 48 hours. Jeff, however, had eyes only for the kazoo. Approaching the counter, he dramatically slapped down his crumpled coupon booklet. "I demand this kazoo, at half price." The cashier, a young woman with neon pink hair, glanced at the coupon. Sir, this is for a pretzel shop." "Ah," Jeff said, undeterred. "Then I shall pay with this." He fished a handful of strange, blackened coins from his fanny pack and slapped them onto the counter. "Cursed currency, valid in many realms." The cashier raised an eyebrow. "Do you have, actual money?" Jeff hesitated, then scribbled something on a napkin. He held it up triumphantly. "An IOU signed by none other than Jeff the Demon. You can frame it later." Arthur facepalmed. "I'll just pay for it." Jeff snatched the kazoo before the transaction was complete, blowing an off-key melody that echoed through the shop. He twirled dramatically, clutching the kazoo to his chest. "Arthur, this is the sound of triumph." As they exited the shop, kazoo in hand, they found themselves in the atrium where a virtual reality gaming tournament was in full swing. Dozens of participants stood in VR headsets, flailing wildly as they navigated a simulated battlefield. Jeff gasped. "A battle of champions. Clearly they're fighting for the honor of kazoos." Arthur sighed. "They're not," but Jeff was already striding toward the platform. One of the participants had removed their headset to take a break, and Jeff snatched it up before anyone could stop him. "Behold," Jeff cried, donning the headset. "I enter the fray." What followed was 5 minutes of complete chaos. Jeff's wild flailing caused multiple other participants to crash in the game, while his kazoo playing echoed through the tournament area like a war horn. The organizers eventually intervened, escorting Jeff out as he proclaimed, "Victory is mine." Arthur shook his head. "You didn't even know what game you were playing." "I didn't need to," Jeff replied. "The kazoo guided me." After narrowly avoiding a ban from the tournament area, they wandered into the mall's aquarium section. Floor-to-ceiling tanks displayed colorful fish, lazy turtles, and even a small shark that glided ominously near the glass. Jeff pressed his face against the largest tank, his eyes wide with wonder. "Arthur, do you see this noble beast?" He pointed at a large grouper. "Its eyes hold the weight of 10 lifetimes." Arthur leaned against the railing. "It's a fish." Jeff tapped the glass. "Fear not, aquatic friend. I shall give you purpose." He raised the kazoo to his lips, playing a soulful, off-key melody that startled nearby visitors. The fish, entirely unbothered, swam away. Jeff turned to Arthur, unfazed. He's moved. I can tell. Arthur grabbed Jeff's arm. Let's move before someone calls security again. They ended up back in the central concourse, where Jeff decided his new kazoo deserved an audience. He climbed onto a decorative fountain, brandishing the instrument like a trophy. "Citizens of the Mall of America," Jeff bellowed, his voice echoing through the atrium. "I give you the anthem of triumph." What followed was an improvised kazoo performance, complete with Jeff stomping his feet and twirling theatrically. To Arthur's horror, shoppers began joining in with clapping, stomping, and even singing. One kid produced a harmonica, adding to the chaotic symphony. Arthur waved off a passing security guard. "It's, performance art. Very avant-garde." The crowd erupted into cheers as Jeff finished his final note, bowing dramatically. Thank you. You have been a mediocre audience at best." Arthur dragged him down from the fountain. "We're leaving. Now." Jeff grinned. "Arthur, my kazoo has found its true calling, and so have I." Arthur muttered, "Your calling is apparently public nuisance." As they walked toward the escalators, Jeff stopped suddenly, his gaze locking on a suspiciously shiny trash can. "What now?" Arthur asked, exasperated. Jeff held up his kazoo. "Arthur, do you know what this mall needs?" "What?" "A kazoo duet, and you're the chosen one." Arthur groaned as Jeff shoved a spare kazoo into his hand. "This is why I don't go out with you." But Jeff was already playing, leading Arthur into another melody as they ascended the escalators, leaving behind a trail of confused shoppers and scattered applause. Jeff adjusted his fanny pack, now bulging with various trinkets from his escapades, and perched his glittery kazoo atop his head like a crown. "Arthur," he announced as they strolled toward a toy store, "I feel destiny pulling me in this direction. Something important awaits us." Arthur, lagging behind, muttered, "If it's anything like the last important thing, it'll probably end with us banned from another part of the mall." Jeff grinned, unfazed. "Banned? Nonsense. The mall thrives on the chaos I bring." The toy store loomed ahead, its window display featuring an animatronic robot dog barking cheerfully at passers-by. Jeff froze, his eyes wide. "Arthur, it's alive." "It's not alive," Arthur replied flatly. "It's a toy." Jeff strode into the store without hesitation, zeroing in on the animatronic. He crouched in front of it, his kazoo in hand. "Don't worry, little one. I'll free you from this prison of consumerism." As the toy continued barking, Jeff raised the kazoo to his lips and began to play what could only be described as a very off-key lullaby. The store clerk, visibly perplexed, approached. Sir? Can I help you?" "Yes," Jeff said solemnly. "This noble beast needs liberation." Arthur face-palmed. "He's not stealing it, I promise." Jeff, however, had other plans. He poked the robot dog, causing it to bark louder. Jeff's eyes lit up. "Arthur, it's communicating." He poked it again and again until the clerk intervened. "Sir, please stop touching the merchandise." "I'm not touching, I'm bonding," Jeff argued, but Arthur pulled him away, muttering apologies. As they left the store, Jeff glanced back wistfully. "The robot dog will miss me." "I know it. Pretty sure it's programmed not to care," Arthur retorted. The real chaos began moments later, when Jeff noticed the escalators leading to the mall's third level. He stopped, staring at the moving stairs like they were a great beast lying in wait. "Arthur," he said gravely, "these stairs defy gravity. They're witchcraft." Arthur sighed. "They're escalators, Jeff. Just step on." Jeff shook his head. "No mortal mechanism can be trusted to transport me safely. I must conquer it with strategy." "Strategy?" Jeff backed up several feet, dramatically cracked his knuckles, and sprinted toward the escalator. He jumped onto the moving stairs like a stuntman, nearly taking out an unsuspecting shopper in the process. "I am victorious," he bellowed as he rode the escalator up, kazoo in hand, playing a triumphant melody. Arthur followed at a normal pace, his head in his hands. "You're exhausting." At the top of the escalator, Jeff spotted a fountain with a large bronze sculpture of a dolphin leaping through waves. He gasped. "Arthur, do you see this aquatic monument?" "Yes," Arthur replied, wary of whatever was coming next. "It's calling to me." Before Arthur could stop him, Jeff climbed onto the edge of the fountain. Shoppers paused to watch as he brandished his kazoo like a conductor's baton. Citizens of the Mall of America, witnessed the great fountain serenade. He began to play. Terribly, of course. But the scene escalated when his movements became too grand. Jeff slipped, flailing wildly as he fell into the fountain with a loud splash. Shoppers gasped, some laughing, others pulling out their phones. Arthur rushed to the edge. "Jeff, are you okay?" Jeff emerged from the water, drenched but grinning. "The dolphin approves. It has accepted me as one of its own." Security arrived shortly after. The incident should have marked the end of their visit, but Jeff had other ideas. As security escorted them toward the exit, Jeff pulled out his kazoo one last time, blowing an ear-piercing note that echoed through the atrium. "I will not be silenced," he declared. Suddenly, the mall's fire alarm system blared, triggered by an unrelated incident in the food court. Shoppers began to panic, and Jeff, mistaking the chaos for a sign of his rallying power, climbed onto a nearby table. "Rise, mall citizens! Liberate yourselves from corporate oppression." Arthur yanked him down. "Jeff, stop making it worse." "I'm giving them hope," Jeff protested as security guards struggled to regain control of the situation. Amid the commotion, Jeff grabbed Arthur's arm and darted toward the nearest exit. "Quickly, Arthur. We must retreat while the mall is distracted." Arthur, exasperated but knowing resistance was futile, let himself be dragged along. "You're unbelievable." Outside, they collapsed onto a bench, Jeff dripping water from his fountain escapade. He patted his fanny pack, which now held the glittery kazoo, a stolen stress ball, and a damp pretzel. "Arthur, today was a triumph." "You got us kicked out of the mall," Arthur pointed out. Jeff waved a dismissive hand. "A small price to pay for glory. Besides." He pulled out a laminated card that read, "VIP Guest Pass" in bold letters. "They gave me this for boosting their social media engagement. Apparently, I went viral." Arthur stared at the card in disbelief. "You're telling me all that chaos actually worked out?" Jeff leaned back, placing the kazoo atop his head like a crown. "Arthur, if there's one thing you should know by now, it's that I always win." Arthur groaned, but even he couldn't suppress a small smile. "You're insufferable." "Insufferable," Jeff replied, blowing a triumphant kazoo note, "but victorious."